You are listening to the So Now What podcast with Lana Manikowski, episode number 142.
So now what? These three words raced through my mind time and time again during my journey through fertility treatments. I tried desperately to have a child, but never was able. I yearned for a community to join that could understand my struggles. I couldn't find one, so I created one with the So Now What podcast. I love that you found us.
Hey girl, welcome back to the So Now What podcast. I'm so glad that you are here with me today because we're going to dive into something incredibly important. There's a lot to cover off on this week, so I'm going to get started. The purpose of this week's episode is to help you hear that you are not the only one dealing with some of these common things that women who leave fertility treatments that ended in a way that you didn't hope for often feel. So I know this journey well. I spent 7 years in off and on in a cycle of going through fertility treatments, stopping, deciding whether I wanted to pursue more, if I had the emotional and mental bandwidth to pursue more. And at the end, like you, I came out of my treatments without the child that I dreamed of. But what we don't talk nearly enough about is what happens after that. Once the treatments stop, where do we go? What do we do with the emotional, the mental, and that social toll that being childless after infertility leaves us with? You might not even realize how common these feelings are that you're having because unfortunately, most of us do not get offered the chance to talk about it, whether it's to our providers, whether it's to people that are closest to us. And let's be honest, fertility clinics may do their best while we're in treatment, but what happens when the treatments, in air quotes, if you're watching me on YouTube, when the treatments fail? Where's the support to help us make sense of this unexpected path? So I was there sitting in that grief and confusion, and I've worked with countless women who have felt just as lost as I was, and maybe the loss that you are feeling. So today I'm going to go through and highlight 10 of the most common struggles that women like us face when we leave fertility treatments without a child. And more importantly, we're going to start shifting that perspective that the struggles have to define our lives forever. All right, so the first and probably most common struggle is grief and loss. Grief after infertility is so specific. For some, it might be the loss of a child. It might be a miscarriage. For somebody like me, it's this loss of a dream that you thought you were going to have when you were never even able to get pregnant. But whatever it is deep and it is painful. And what makes it even harder is that we're often left to grieve alone without support or understanding that we need. But this grief does not have to hold you forever. It's normal if you're feeling lost in this grief right now, but there is a way to honor that grief without letting it define you the rest of your life. Earlier this year, I got my advanced certification in helping women manage that grief because I found, and most women that I've worked with find, that people don't recognize the loss of a dream of motherhood is actually as severe as losing a parent, losing a loved one, but many people don't give it the time and the recognition it deserves because we haven't physically, for many of us, lost a human. And there's so much to navigate around that. Okay, the number 2 thing is identity and purpose. For so many of us, our identities, for as long as we can remember, were wrapped up in the thought that we were going to become a mother. And when that didn't happen, it can feel like we've lost our sense of purpose. But what I want you to know is that there is so much more to who you are than the title of mother. You have the ability to redefine your life and your purpose in a way that is meaningful and fulfilling. Imagine waking up every day knowing that you still have so much to offer in this world, even if it's without children. feelings of failure. Now, I know how easy it is to feel like your body has betrayed you. And trust me, I have been there too, feeling like I had somehow failed as a woman because my body could not produce a child. But the truth is, infertility is not your fault. You did not fail at anything. And that's why I always define that I'm saying the word fail in air quotes. And if you watch me on YouTube, you'll see my little air quotes all the time when I talk about the word fail, because I don't think it is an appropriate way to define a cycle, to define us as a patient. But holding on to that belief is going to keep you stuck. What if you could stop judging yourself for something that was never within your control? What if you could find peace in knowing that you are enough just as you are? All right, number 4, compassion and jealousy. When you're surrounded by friends or family who are posting baby announcements or sharing milestones of being a mom or those of their children, it's almost impossible not to compare your life to theirs. And that comparison, although normal, it can be very toxic and it steals your joy and likely makes you feel like you're constantly missing out. But what if you could let go of that comparison? What if you could look at your own life feeling proud of where you are and what you've overcome? Number 5, isolation. One of the hardest parts about being childless after infertility is that isolation. So many of us feel like no one really gets us, like we're the anomaly. And unfortunately, most of us were not offered a space to talk openly about it. And it's not just you. There are so many women who are navigating this grief of being childless after infertility and the isolation that they feel on their own. But imagine if you could find a community of women who get it. And not only get it, they understand exactly where you're going because they've been there too, and they are ready to grow beyond it. And they don't want to be defined by this isolation that they've been feeling. Number 6, relationships with partners. Infertility and childlessness can put such an incredible strain on your relationship. It's so hard when both you and your partner are grieving, and maybe you're grieving in different ways, and you're not sure how to support one another. You're not sure of how to bring things up and how to talk about things. And I've seen this not only in my own marriage, but in so many of the women that I've worked with in my Thrive After Infertility Mastermind. But the truth is, when you let go of that weight that grief puts on you, there is so much spaciousness and room to reconnect with your partner, not only in a new way, but oftentimes in a deeper way. Number 7, navigating friendships. We've talked about this before, but being the only childless friend in your group feels so isolating. And you might feel like you're no longer relevant, like your friends are living this completely different life. And here you are, this crew that you feel like you have moved through so many milestones together. You just sometimes feel like you're lost in the dust. But I want to tell you that your friendships do not have to disappear. Yes, they may change. Yes, you may choose to a different group of friends or seek connection in a different way. But if you are wanting to stay connected to your friends, you can do it in a way that you still feel like you are relevant in your relationships. And your life matters, even though it's different than the one that they're living. And I want so many women who are childless after infertility to know that they can still be active members in their friendships. All right, number 8 is cultural and social expectations. Let's be honest, society places so much pressure on women to be meaningful and purposeful by having children. And when we don't, it can feel like you have failed to meet some unspoken standard. The judgment does feel suffocating, but guess what? You do not have to live up to anyone's expectations but your own. You are the one who gets to define what success looks like in your life, and it really can be a beautiful, fulfilling life even without children. Number 9, uncertainty about the future. It's hard when the future you dreamed of is no longer possible. You likely feel lost, maybe unsure of where to go with what your purpose is now. But here's what I've learned. And I teach this to the women that I work with in my mastermind. You can create a new vision for your life, one that fills you with excitement and one where you are the owner of your future and your future feels like it's still full of possibility. And there's nothing I love more when that light bulb goes off for somebody in the mastermind and I see it and there's this relief that comes over them. And number 10, maybe one that you talk about less than any of these, is that fear of aging alone. And this is the big one, that fear of who will be there for you as you get older. It can feel overwhelming. But it's important to remember that you can create a meaningful support system without children. Your goal in life was not to have children to take care of you in your final days. You do not have to worry about dying old and alone in a nursing home because you can build deep connections that provide love and care as you age. And you never have to face that alone. So why am I sharing all of this with you today? Because I want you to know that these struggles you are facing are not unique to you. They are incredibly common, but most women leaving fertility treatments are not given a space to talk. So we move through life feeling like we are the only ones navigating these things. Most clinics don't offer us resources or support to help us make sense of this path that we're on. So it feels like a burden that we carry around, and most times a silent burden. But here's the thing, you do not have to continue feeling this way. The things that you have been doing to simply coexist with these feelings, they may have helped you survive in those initial months and days after you got the news that you weren't going to be a mom, but they aren't going to help you thrive. And this is what I want for you. I want you to thrive and feel fulfilled, even though you couldn't have the children that you dreamed of. I have worked with hundreds of women in my Thrive After Infertility Mastermind who were in that same place. They felt lost, stuck in grief, in that comparison game and uncertainty about their future. But I have seen how powerful it is when you start to release those old beliefs and step into a life that feels meaningful and fulfilling. Now that I have my advanced certification in grief and post-traumatic growth, I'm not only someone who can relate to your story, but I am the person who has the professional training to help you change your life. And in the Thrive After Infertility Mastermind, we focus on how you view your body, how to find meaning in your future, how to reconnect in your relationships. These pillars are the ones that help you shift from just surviving after infertility to actually thriving. If what I said resonates with you today, I'd love to offer you an opportunity to get on a free Thrive call. We can talk about where you are right now. I can help you create a plan for how you can move forward because I know how it feels to be stuck, feeling like you don't know what's next and you don't know where the start button is in a life that doesn't include the children that you always dreamed of. But you do not need to stay stuck in this place forever. There is hope, and I would so love to help you find it. If you're interested in the Thrive Call, I am going to put a link in the show notes. There's no commitment to anything. I just want to give you this 45 minutes to help you know that there is a plan for you and I can help you create it. So I hope that you have a beautiful week. I love you. And remember that it's never too late to discover your meaning. I'll talk to you next week. Hey, real quick, I just want to tell you about an awesome resource I created. If you have ever found yourself in conversations with people, or maybe people offering you suggestions about what you should do to become a mom, it's called The Top 27 Things People Say When You're Childless and How to Respond. You can get your copy free at lanamanikowski.com/thingspeoplesay.